voice of NASCAR.
We are AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, the station for the man who matters. I do thank you, my name is David Tulis, for giving us a couple of minutes of your time here. We are the station that has NASCAR every first day of the week. Sean Hannity in the afternoon for your drive home. Coast to Coast AM in the night watches. And Alex Jones, the ferocious patriot in the evening. Also, we've got Clutch with Keon Rose, our local news and sports show just at dinner time. Art Beat every Thursday here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. Set the Hook, the most popular show in the city. Also, we have that here. That's Set the Hook with Pat Rose and local news. Next week, in the middle of the week, I think it's, the 10th is Thursday, there's going to be the start of a conference at UTC that might bear some interest. It's about the war to prevent Southern independence and the press. It's called the Symposium on the 19th Century Press, the Civil War, as they Yankees call it, and free expression. It's at UTC and has several. This is very, very serious, and the people who go there really have to just not have a life for those 3 days, because there's one lecture from academic expert after another. For example, Southern Intrigues and Northern Suspicions, Newspapers as Open Source Intelligence During the Secession Crisis, by a man from Wayne State University. There's also Traditional Reporting and Access to Local Government Information in Antebellum America. Antebellum, of course, means before the war, and that's from a professor from Augusta University. The Press and Slavery, 1791 to 1859, the melancholy effect of popular excitement, referring to the ferocious and firebrand abolitionist press, drawing the election, editorial cartooning in the 1860s press. That sounds very interesting, from Jennifer Moore from the University of Minnesota at Duluth. And then this last one I want to mention, We Are Killed. These are very long titles. The academicians like long titles. They're shorter than book titles of the 1700s, but long still. We Are Killed All the Day Long, the African American Press, Death, and the Legacy of the Civil War, by Ashley Towle from the University of Maryland at College Park. So these are all people who are coming to Chattanooga, enjoying the beautiful scenery, eating out at our fine restaurants, and speaking to people who care about these questions, and who come also to hear, come some distance and make a commitment to be informed in a pleasant academic setting. My name is David Tulis, and we are the station that covers local economy and the free market. We believe that near is better than far, that small is better than big, that personal is better than corporate. There are 5 nostrums that make up the local economy argument, 2 in very small type there in the footnotes that I'll let you read later. You can read those later if you decide to inquire further into our argument. To help me make the argument is Michael Scalia. He runs Buddy Shoe Repair in Hixson, and a small business operator, and he makes the case for the repair of shoes. Now, you might say, well, what does that have to do with local economy? What does that have to do, I would ask you back, with thrift, with making the most of your assets? Michael, why should my listener not just buy new shoes? What's the argument for repairing shoes?
Well, I guess when you have shoes already that you've purchased and they start to wear out, to be thrifty, you just want to fix what you've got. It's cheaper to fix what you got than go buy new most of the time. And then you get more for your money in the end, because, you're fixing what you've got, you're wearing it longer, you're getting more use out of what you've already paid for, as opposed to just tossing it aside and going and spending another whole price to buy another pair of shoes.
Well, I often come to you for repair, and I remember once you said, well, that's nice looking sandals, but they can't be fixed. They were inexpensive to begin with. They were designed for a single use. Is that something that my listener might be not aware of? Or what is it with shoes that can't be fixed?
A lot of them they're making these days, they're making them with composites and the way the sole's attached and stuff, and you can't just re-sole them. So some shoes and sandals and boots are non-repairable. The thing to do with those is you come in before you wear the sole out, and we can put a protective sole on the bottom of it, and then that keeps the original sole from wearing out, and then that in turn makes it last longer.
Well, I had one pair of loafers that I've had resold and rehealed from your hands, Michael Scalia, at Buddy Shoe Repair maybe five times. And the last time I took them, there your mother was, Barbara, behind the counter, and Buddy's wife, right? That's Buddy. Buddy is a real person, and there's his beloved wife behind the counter. And the report I got back from her was that Michael says these can't be fixed, and so I left something else for repair and took back those sandals that I had bought not too far away at a shoe store. So the idea is that you, my listener, make the most of what you have. That is part of thrift. That is a way of keeping off of one marketplace and keeping yourself in another. Now, the other one that you're in is the shoe repair line, and that's what Michael does as for 6 years now as the man behind the equipment there, behind a kind of a glass mirror. You can sort of see him outlined behind it there with your equipment. And I do believe what I say on this point. I have a van, 2000 Honda Odyssey minivan that has already had a new transmission, and I got some flack here in the office for my decision to repair the transmission, which had gone bad. So what happened is I took it to S&S Auto Repair, where I've been going for a long time, and get very faithful and good service. And I said, okay, here's my van. I don't plan to sell it. I plan to keep this car, which has gone already 250,000 miles. I'd like the transmission to be repaired. There's a bill, and someone can choke at the bill for a repair like that. But a good quality car, can easily last 300,000 or 400,000 miles, and I'm just at 250. So it's got 100,000 more miles at least. If I'm a diligent owner and maintain my asset, it's got a lot of service. And I avoid the marketplace. I avoid the marketplace for new shoes by going to Buddy's and having Michael take care of me. And I avoid the transaction cost, the wear cost, if you will, of buying a car or a van, and all of which take from my capital base and save and don't really save me money. So I'm a thrifty kind of person. And I suggest you, my listener, think in those terms as well, keeping what you have, buying less new things, and repairing what you have. Well, Michael, tell me a little bit about your family. Your dad is a longtime shoe repair man, Buddy. There's a strip of cloth, or maybe it's not cloth, there's a kind of a sign under your eaves there in Hixson. What does that sign say, and say something about the people that named it?
The little sign you're referring to is something my dad did for my mom years ago, just to show his appreciation for her, I guess. And it says, "This Italian cobbler has a peach of a wife." And it's kind of a play on words, and I'm telling you, a lot of customers really love that sign and look for that sign. So we're definitely gonna keep it up because it's a part of the shoe shop, not only a part of his love for my mom.
Well, say something about your dad. What's his background, and how did he get into the shoe line?
Well, my grandparents came over from Italy, and they're big family, and they a real tight family. So when he was 8 years old, he started working in the shoe shop full time, no summers off. When the kids got out for school, he said he had to work all day, and he was in it, until he was in his 70s, and finally retired. And when I came in there and took over for him, he retired. So he was in there for a good long time.
Now, how long have you been in charge of the shop?
I'd say fully in charge of it, probably 3 years.
And what did you do before you were in the shoe business, Michael Scalia?
I went to school for auto body up at Sequoia Vocational and got out, worked in body shops as a painter for years and years. And then I'd quit that and went to a chemical plant, and wasn't really happy there. And my dad's health, he got some high blood pressure and hypertension, so he wasn't being able to get the work out. So I took a week's vacation and went into the shoe shop and tried to help him get the work out, and it worked out so well, I just never went back.
You didn't go back to Sofix, where you had been for 2 years.
Right. I went in there and just told them that I was going to take over my family business for my parents so they could retire. And so that's what it is.
Well, you've had, I'm offended, Michael Scalia and Buddy Shoe Repair, that if I come with a pair of shoes today, you're going to tell me that I can't see that pair of shoes for more than a month. Why do you have so much business? Where's that coming from, and what's the market like?
Yeah, right now our sold date is around December the 22nd. The reason we're so hot right now is because Mr. Reginald downtown that run Kenton's Shoe Repair for decades, he retired and shut his store down, that there was nobody there to keep it open, and so he told all his customers to come to Buddy's, and I believe they all have, and then some, because we're just blessed with so much work right now that that's just the way it goes.
So if you, my listener, want to have shoe repaired, you're going to have to wait till December 22nd for if it's sold work, SOLE, it's going to be more than a month. Well, let me ask you about succession plans. The man who ran Kenton's downtown on Broad Street did not have a succession plan. He didn't have a son or a daughter, or he didn't have a woman he could have brought on as partner to take over the business and to maintain its profitability, so he closed it. What about in your case? You're married, Michael Scalia. You and your wife, Flower, have two daughters who are seniors at Saudi Daisy High School. What about them? Are they? And I have met one or two, I think at least one of them, in the shop. What is their interest in the business other than being part of your and your wife's estate?
Well, one of my daughters, she comes and helps sometimes, not much. But my other daughter, she loves to come in there. She comes every day after school. She's learning. She's actually giving me input because she takes an economics class and she takes a couple other classes, and so she's trying to help me, streamline and cut corners. And she's actually given us some really good advice, and I just can't wait to have her on all the time.
Be specific.
Well, specifically, we have problems sometimes with customers coming and then giving them a date, and then they don't remember the date or whatever, so they call, and they'll call 2 or 3 times. So we've established she come up with a system where we give out a claim ticket, and I've heard of them before, but I've never thought about it. Well, she said we need to do this, and make it out like this, and that way it's a reminder, and it's worked great so far.
And so on the claim ticket, the shop has a copy of that in the record for that customer, and the customer has this little not too flimsy a piece of paper. I don't guess it's cardboard.
It's a business card, and we just had it printed on the back, and we just fill in the name, date, pickup date.
Now, you, Michael Scalia, a couple years ago, we had an interview about a business you were starting, and it was a bullet shell or shotgun brass novelty item for men and women who wear ball caps with a bill. Say a little bit about that. Tell my listener how this is a business that you started, and then you saw there was a problem. What happened? How did you get into this separate line from the shoe repair business, and what occurred?
Well, me and my nephew was duck hunting, and we was sitting around, and when you get one, you want to get mounted. They're awful expensive. So I thought, well, we could commemorate the duck kill with just putting a shotgun shell on the bill of your hat like they do the fishing hooks. So we came up with a design and the way to cut the shell, and I ended up taking and getting I forget what it's called, but help me out here.
Go ahead, describe it.
A patent. I'm sorry, I couldn't.
A patent.
I just left
Okay.
Okay, I went and got a patent, and because Congress had made a law that the first to file is the first to invent now. So I wanted to get it in there, and actually got it sent in and everything. So,
well, did you have entered just a petition for a patent, or did you actually get a patent with a number and kind of a claim ticket?
what it is they do a provisional patent, and that gets your name in the hat as the first one to file. Then after a year, you're supposed to file a non-provisional patent, and then that is the patent where you get the number and all that stuff. So I'd filed my provisional patent just so I was the first to invent, because once you file that and nobody else has, you're the first one.
Well, when you did that work, did you not do market research to determine that, in fact, it was a novelty, it was a new thing?
Yeah, I did, and we did research on if anybody else had done it first, and the guy that helped me file and did the filing for me, actually, and he did his research and I did mine. We didn't see anybody else out there with it, anything like it, so we just went ahead with it.
What was the name of the product?
Shoddy Shells.
Shotty, Shotty, Shotty Shells by
Yeah.
Michael Scalia. Okay, so you filed a provisional patent,
Mm-hmm.
and what happened then before the year came to the final?
We was having to move out of the house we was renting and was buying a house, and so in all that process and mess, this kind of got pushed to the side. It wasn't something that was needing to be dealt with right now. So I figured, well, I'll just get it when I move and pick back up. And in that time frame, I had a friend of mine tell me that they went into this shooter store and saw this shotgun shell. No, it was a rifle shell, actually, on for sale that you put on the bill of a hat. So obviously somebody came out probably about the same time I did. They probably just stuck with it and got it going faster than I could. And I just, due to circumstance, I just didn't get it done.
Well, Michael, you told me just a moment ago that when you obtained a driver's license recently, you were given a comment by the clerk from the Department of Safety and Homeland Security that you had not had a license for some time. Tell my listener a little bit about your thinking about the right to travel. You're one of the people in Chattanooga I would identify as understanding that as a real property rights issue. If you have a right to travel, you have a property right in movement, and you, as I understand, a right is something for which you don't have to ask permission to exercise. It's yours by God's grant, or your claim as being an American under constitutional protections. Tell us about your thinking prior to that when you let your driver's license or your driver license lapse.
Well, the driver's license, if you look at Black's Law Dictionary, driver's defined as being in commerce, commercial FedEx driver or tractor trailer driver. Those are drivers in commerce. And as an individual, I'm just traveling from my home to my work. I'm not driving. I'm not making money with my car. It's just a simple form of transportation. And, they call all these cars on the road vehicles. Well, a vehicle, Black's Law Dictionary, is described as a vehicle in commerce. Being like the vehicles that the UPS driver drives. We drive automobiles, and the definition for automobile is private and not subject to the driver's statutes, codes, rules, and regulations, because it's private. It's for travel. There's no commerce involved, and I didn't want a driver's license anymore because I figured, I am not, in that form of citizen that is in commerce. I'm just traveling from my home to my job and back. So I just stood on my right, and I never had any problems with it, but I'm sure I could have.
Well, you didn't have problems with it. You mean to say you didn't have problems with police officers?
Yeah.
Where the problems would have occurred.
Right.
So what you're saying is that being a traveler in an automobile or a little SUV or a truck, you are operating privately, and that making a distinction between private travel on the public right of way as opposed to commerce, where it's for hire, right? And if you're in commerce, you're trading money for services, the service being the movement of people or goods for pay or for hire. That's commerce.
Yeah.
And that's subject to regulation under Title 55 of the Tennessee Code, which is where you as a licensee of the Department of Safety to drive, and I have gone for permission to enter commerce, because it is called the Commercial Driver's License Code, and it's all commercial, and yet people somehow think, by mistake possibly, maybe they've been misled, that they cannot use the road in car or truck privately, that all use of the road has to be in public, it has to be under government regulation and supervision in commerce, because government regulates commerce.
Yeah. And something else is they're violating your 13th Amendment rights when they force you into that contract, because it says no involuntary servitude. And when a corporation forces you into contract with another corporation or the same corporation, then that is involuntary servitude.
Well, but the answer to that would be, you say you got a driver's license about the time you were seeking to buy a house. Were you trying to obtain a loan or credit to obtain that house?
Yeah, because as in the same time frame I was going through that time when I didn't have a driver's license, I didn't have credit cards, debt. I paid for everything with cash.
You were in the free cash economy.
Yeah, and what was funny is I'm at work one day, and I don't use a credit card or anything, and don't have credit, and bankruptcy attorney came in. He's a customer of mine, and I'm not going to name his name, but I asked him this question. I said, what would happen if more people did like what I'm doing and don't use credit and don't use, don't have debt through credit? They just spend cash and only cash. And he said, I'd go out of business. So just think about that.
That he would go out of business.
Yeah,
the
bankruptcy lawyers would go out of business if everybody just went back to using cash and didn't spend more than they had in their pocket. So,
Well, one of the things I want to get to in the program today, Michael Scalia, is the power of my listener. The power of my listener to overturn a bad law. We think that we have to have presidents, the right guy in the president's office. We have to have the right guy in the Congress, the legislature, to make a good law, or to stop a bad law or to alter a bad law. We have to have a kind of top-down solution for evil legislation. There's a lot of evil legislation out there offending the Constitution, offending rights, making people small, making them just numbers, making them human resources. But there's a bottom-up solution to these evils, not politics. It is the idea of the jury power. What have you thought about the role of juror? Have you been called to jury duty, Michael Scalia, of Buddy Shoe Repair?
I have. I've never sat on a jury. I always ended up getting not chosen. So I guess that was probably a good thing. I didn't miss a lot of work.
Is that because you know things about law that worried the defense attorneys or the prosecutor?
I don't know. I mean, they did seem awful selective, and I think they tend to probably pick people that would be for their side as opposed to the defendant that might be, getting his rights trampled right now.
Well, what should my listener consider if he's called for jury duty? What is his real power? And tell him what his real power is, and then tell us if the judge will tell that listener about his real power.
Yeah, if you get called for jury duty, people think it's a burden, but it's actually an honor. So what it is you want to be on that jury. You want to be there, especially if you feel strongly about your opinion and your views on what the Constitution or whatever. So if there's an individual on trial for traveling without a license and you're on that jury, you can nullify that case against that man, and then that sets the precedence across the state or across the nation.
And so what you're doing is in voting no, in that case you're disagreeing with the prosecution. You're saying, no, this law, there may be a driver's license law, as in your case you could have faced a trial. You in God's providence you were not hauled before the court, but the juror in that had that trial occurred could have been the listener. And what we're wanting him to understand is that he could have said, no, this law may be fine and true for the people to which it applies, but it doesn't apply here, and I vote to nullify the claims of the state against this innocent man. And there are many other cases where you have paper crimes, where you have alleged crimes that have no injured party at all, and the jury is supposed to convict this person and either fine him or put him in prison for a non-common law crime. You're saying that he should say no.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You nullify that case, and then that can set the precedence to change it completely.
And that what that does, it informs prosecutors that, hey, if we find someone else involved in the same so-called infraction, we'd better be really careful that we have a good case, because the jury here in this county is hostile to this kind of charge.
Exactly.
Well, this is David Tulis, and we are at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. We are the station that has the local economy and free market theory. Colin Cowherd at noon. We have Sean Hannity all afternoon after 3 o'clock. CBS and Fox, where we report and you decide. And Michael Scalia, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Michael Scalia and his family run Buddy Shoe Repair in Hixson. The Buddy is a reference to the